The following math project will be about Chernobyl. As team, we commented and discussed the Chernobyl 1986 disaster, applying math concept as exponential growth and decay, the equation that we presented, and the main characteristic of its basic graph. We made a summary that contains facts, consequences, and implications of the Chernobyl nuclear reactor disaster to this day and in global context. We'll look also for two real situations that could represent exponential growth and decay, sharing our individual and team conclusion using social media, which includes our solution proposal related to this incident and its environmental consequences in a global scale.
Regular exponential function. It goes from almost zero, but it never touches the zero because it never touches the x-axis. It goes all the way to the y-axis, and in the y-axis it touches 1 because in a regular exponential function it's always 1 point up from the asymptote, and the asymptote is normally 0. Decay, as the name says, it decreases, and exponential growth increases. In exponential decay, you have the same formula and the same function as an exponential function, but you have it flipped on the y-axis in the graph. So it, instead of a line going from left to right increasing, it goes decreasing from left to right.
The situation of exponential growth would be human population. For example, in 2012, we reached the world population of 7 billion, and nowadays we are 7.5 billion people.
Devaluates in a period of and how the price goes down.
The Chernobyl nuclear reactor disease was a mess of Chernobyl and the whole world itself, since it affected and it's still affecting the areas around it. After watching the documentaries, I saw the catastrophe of the whole situation. But I also know that accidents happen. But this wasn't an accident. It was a lack of responsibility and knowledge from the guy in charge, which resulted in a huge disaster that affected the health of the people up to this date. This I consider as the biggest man-made disaster of all history. It was so bad that even Ireland received nuclear rain from the disaster. When the Chernobyl nuclear reactor exploded in the year 1986, several catastrophes started appearing, absolutely as the worst accident in the history due to radiation. 1 to 7 reactor workers, firemen, and exposed. Also, 22 of 10645 cleanup workers contracted leukemia in the posterior 25 year. Up to 40 countries were exposed to contamination. The higher affected were Belarus, Russian, Federal, and Ukraine. Scientists calculated a total of 2,800 cancers due to radiation, where it is not taken in consideration thyroid cancer, which some 172 million people. So that's 2,800 non-thyroid cancers, in addition to the approximately 194 million cancer causes that will normally be accepted in a population of that size, even in the absence of a Chernobyl accident. The increase from 194,000,000 to 194,022,800 is a 0.01% rise in the overall cancer rate. That's too small to have any measurable impact on the cancer incidence rates for any national cancer register. So these predict values will likely remain theoretical.
Yes, we think that Chernobyl nuclear disaster could have been prevented, since the design RMBK type reactor could have been designed differently to avoid a high coefficient of reactivity. Not having moderators on the control roads, use better system that responds rapidly in seconds instead of minutes, activate automatic lockouts to prevent the machines, perform not desired actions for creating unstable situations, and people that had not received any training could not use the machines. Some ways to stop radiation to spread is to cover the walls from cities with concrete and lead. People should stay inside their houses covered with special clothes. Some plastics can work for covering and wait for decontamination instructions and medical assistance. We thought that it could possible that the radioactive pollution disaster could have reached Mexico, since radioactivity is very easy to spread in humans, water, and air. So exporting things to Mexico from this place could have been contaminated. The fish that could be contaminated in rivers, lakes, could reach to Mexican waters. Scales from planes, food products, especially agriculture, with the contaminated exported crops, cattle raising with the possible contaminated animals, and if people ingest these contaminated products, the country could have begun with radiation contamination problems. Some of the environmental consequences of Chernobyl could be that more than 2,000 kilometers were contaminated in Europe with high levels of radioactivity. Agriculture was impossible since soil and roots of crops were contaminated. Forest ecosystem contained the highest levels of radioactivity and high concentration in water bodies and drinking water reservoirs. We think that the consequences were terrible, but they could have been worse. Also, that the problem could have been better solved. Our proposal is begin with the contamination process immediately, especially in women, pregnant women, and kids. Free medical assistance to all communities involved. Protect the nervous cities with lead, and people should cover for avoiding contamination. It felt good since we are a very efficient team. The work was done on time. We don't like to work in this way. It was hard to all concede at the time, but most of the project did not feel like a lot because we were all working good.